I work with Latin and ballroom dancers, European champions, world champions, dancers who made it into the Blackpool final. And if you maybe dance a different style, stick around. Almost everything in this video applies to you too. In this video I'll show you 5 compensations that dancers usually think they can stretch their out of it, but it simply doesn't work. I'll show you 5 compensations I constantly see with dancers, why they happen, where they can lead if you push them to the extreme, and with which exercises you can resolve them. If you want to find additional solutions on how to fix your movement, sign up to my free 14-day movement coaching series. Through case studies, I'll show you how you can identify movement pattern and how to fix it with drills that take only 15 minutes a day. Link is in description. One of the first things dancers chase is an elongated spine, that lifted tall look. Some even stand against the wall and try to press the back of the neck towards it, training that elongation so it carries into their dancing. The problem is that over time this flattens the spine's natural double S curve. That curve isn't only aesthetic, but it's what lets your body absorb landings, partners lifts, and even bursts of acceleration and deceleration a dance figure demands. Lose it and you lose the shock absorption. When the neck flattens, that's where cervical hernias start to show up, often felt first as a constantly tight upper traps. The same flattening happens lower down in the lumbar spine. You'll often see it clearly in a squat, like as a bend in the lumbar spine shown as a convex shape. That's the same pattern as with the neck. Loss of double S curve, loss of shock absorption, and it's where the lower back pain, herniations and disc protrusions come from. The goal isn't to stop chasing that elongated spine. That's the technique you most probably need. The goal is a few protective exercises that guide you into the opposite direction so you don't reach the extreme. If you found yourself in this description, there are 2 exercises you can try out. Lay on your back and put a folded towel under the base of the skull and bend your knees. Face both arms towards the ceiling and palms towards each other. Inhale, and with an exhale, reach with the hands a bit towards the ceiling, a bit back and a bit wider than shoulder width. Stop at the point where scapulas are slightly off the floor. Hold this position and breathe normally. Do around 5 to 8 breaths for 3 sets. With the second exercise, you rebuild the thoracic curve. Put elbows on a wall or a table with shoulder flexed at around 45 degrees. Have palms towards your face and open them up. Slightly push away with your elbows or forearms so that scapulas travel around your spine. Hold this position. Slowly inhale and slowly exhale. Feel the air moving into your upper back between the shoulder blades. Don't tuck your chin and don't squeeze your scapulas together. Let them glide around the rib cage. And don't flex your spine. The curve comes from the elbow push and not from spinal bending. Here again you can do 5 to 8 slow breaths, then relax for a bit and do around 2, maybe 3 sets. The second thing most Latin and ballroom dancers strive for is shoulders back, because you want to prevent rounded shoulders. Here's the trap most dancers fall into. They think activating lats will open up the shoulders. It actually can trick you and make it even worse. An overactive lat pushes the spine forward so it flattens even more and additionally reduces capability to absorb your and partner's movement or kinetic energy. It also internally rotates the shoulder, so instead of the shoulder blade gliding towards your spine, overactive lat just guides it down. To reduce rounded shoulders, you first need to release tissues on the front part of the body and then use muscles like lower trap, mid trap and rhomboids to do the work. One thing to release is a pec minor. Grab a tennis ball and put it on the wall about 3 centimeters below the clavicle on a small pec muscle. Left palm, if you're doing for the left side, is on the wall and slowly rotate your torso away from the ball to the right until the ball starts pressing up towards the left shoulder. You don't need dynamic movement, just enough rotation to feel that upward pressure of the ball. Then breathe. For around 5 to 10 breaths, release and explore a nearby spot. Avoid bone, avoid any tingling or burning down the arm. You can do both sides. Once the chest is released, lay down on your back, knees bent, feet pointing straight so they're in line with your knees and hips. Loop a very light resistant band around your knees, cross it into an X and hold one end in each hand. Slowly press the inner heel and the base of the big toe into the floor. Outer foot stays grounded and knees should still stay in line with feet and hips. With an exhale, reach your arms gently towards the ceiling and inhale there. On the next exhale, take your arms back and slightly out to the sides. Palms end up a little higher than shoulder height and a bit wider. But keep your shoulder blades gently lifted off the floor the whole time. In this position, slowly inhale through your nose. Don't shrug your shoulders. On the exhale, don't consciously squeeze your abs. Let the spine stay evenly loaded along its length and keep holding that foot pressure throughout. Do 5 to 8 slow breaths. Rest and do 3, maybe 4 sets. This one does double duty. It keeps building that thoracic curve from the previous exercise while also training the foot and knee alignment that shows up later in this video. Now that we release some tightness, we can go and wake up the right scapular muscles. Raise the working arm slightly higher than shoulder height in line with the lower trap fibers with elbow bend. Slowly guide the shoulder blade towards the spine, but go carefully. If the lat takes over, the scapula will just glide straight down instead of gliding diagonally towards the spine, and you won't feel your lower trap or rhomboids at all, just the lat and maybe even the upper trap. If this happens, it's frustrating as hell. Be patient with it. Hold for around 30 seconds, release, do 4 to 5 sets per side. Then we have spinal curvatures or scoliosis, especially common in taller female dancers, and it makes sense once you look at what dance actually demands from the body. Dance, Latin and ballroom especially, is an intensively rotational activity. You're rotating through trunk constantly, thousands of times over the years. Ballroom also demands that you pretty much stay in the same position throughout dance. Your body doesn't have neutral symmetrical starting point to begin with. It already has a natural tendency to prefer one side. Because of our natural structural asymmetry, body prefers right side, and it doesn't matter if you're lefty or righty. Layer thousands of repetitions of a rotational sports on top of that natural asymmetry, and the tendency doesn't just stay the same, it gets reinforced. You'll usually see it the most in a forward bend or a squat. It is something you gradually start noticing during dancing. One side of the movement will simply feel different from the other. You'll load certain muscles on one side and barely feel them at all on the other. That asymmetry in sensation is often the first clue, long before it's visible in a photo and before judges notice it. And here's the part that matters the most. You can influence that with the right exercises matched to your specific movement. Here's a real before and after toe touch example where a patron visibly improved after working through targeted exercises for her specific curve. Then we have knees caving into an X position, very common in female dancers. The more pronounced it is, the higher the risk of knee pain down the line. And here's the good news. Because it's a movement pattern rotation, it can be improved. Where this actually shows up isn't only while you're standing or even mid-figure. It shows up the most in deceleration. Every single time you stop a rotation to change the direction or stop to follow your partner's lead, your body has to absorb momentum. That's exactly the movement the knee tends to cave inward, because caving in is often the path of least resistance when the system doesn't have available better strategy. And it doesn't stop there. The more knee caves in, the slower and less controlled your next reaction becomes, because you're now recovering from a compromised position instead of moving cleanly out of it. I had a client, Latin dancer. her knees and even her feet would collapse inward on every single landing. Not occasionally, every freaking time. Once we built more rigidity into her movement system, not more strength but more actual control, the deceleration became far more efficient. The knees stopped caving in because her body finally learned how to absorb that energy instead of losing control the moment it showed up. An example of an exercise is a wall sit. Put your back against the wall and feet on a wedge so that your heels are lower than your toes. Slide down until your hips are just above your knees. Feet stay straight, in line with knees and hips. Knees mustn't drift inward and feet out. Heels stay firmly grounded because that's what lets you feel the inner front thigh working. Low back stays slightly or lightly in contact with the wall. Do not press hard into and don't tuck your pelvis like this, because it will again create the additional compensation. Hold 30 to 60 seconds for 4, maybe 5 sets. Once it's easy, add load held in front of you. The point of this exercise isn't just that you hold and wake up your thigh muscles. It's teaching your movement system to load without compensation so that when you're mid-figure and decelerating fast, your body has a proper option available instead of just defaulting into the valgus position. The opposite problem shows up in a lot of male dancers. Stiff, locked up hips with almost no internal rotation available. And when I actually measure male dancers, this is one of the most consistent things I find. Internal rotation of the hip that's essentially missing. So the question then becomes, why does this matter so much? That internal rotation is what allows the pelvis to move freely while dancing, and it's essential for any figure that, for example, requires sweeping the leg out to the side. Without it, the body has to find that range somewhere else. So instead of the movement coming from the hip, the pelvis hikes up on that side to create the illusion of the movement. Judges can notice how dancer looks visibly compressed on one side of the body, sort of shortened, because the pelvis just hikes. And that compensation doesn't stay isolated in the hip. It travels downstream where the knees and feet push outward to compensate for the missing pelvic mobility. Do this quick exercise to release tissues around the hip. Foam roller directly under the top rim of the pelvis and above greater trochanter. You're targeting gluteus medius here, which gets sensitive when the hip is tight. Roll slowly from the bottom to the top, never pass the bone at the pelvis or the bone at the thigh. About 10 slow passes with the hip slightly closed, where you're targeting more the front part of the muscle, and then repeat with the hip slightly more open, where the roller is a bit more at the back side. Then be in the same position and do a couple of transitions with the upper leg over the bottom. Keep the bottom knee constantly on the floor. When the upper knee is on the floor, you should feel the roller being more on the front part of the pelvis. Inhale here and try to relax into the roller. With an exhale, travel with the upper leg back, put the foot behind bottom one and on the floor, and then open hips only so much that the bottom knee still stays on the floor. Slowly inhale and pass again with the upper leg with an exhale. Repeat it for around 1 minute. You can do both drills on both sides and then try to do a certain dance move where you previously felt your hips being tight. Let me know in the comments if drills helped release it. Stay. Perfetto. There's one more thing that quietly worsens every single pattern we just covered. It's heels. And this one is sneaky because it doesn't feel like a movement problem at all. It feels like a footwear. The moment your heels lift off the floor, your center of mass shifts forward, and your body doesn't let that shift happen in isolation. The shape of your spine and pelvis changes with it immediately to keep you balanced. So every pattern we talked about, the flattened spine, the compressed hip, the knee that wants to cave in, gets a little bit more pressure added on top every single time you're in your heels. This isn't just about tight calves, which is usually as far as conversation goes. It's about the whole kinetic chain reacting to a change. Center of mass shifts onto the front part of the foot. The problem with this is that the big toe starts drifting inwards, a pattern called hallux valgus. It's very common in female dancers specifically because of how much time they spend loading the front part of the foot. You can try this quick drill for big toe traction and rotation. Hold your foot, use your hand to push the base of the big toe upwards. You'll see your big toe straighten a bit as the bump lifts. Once it's lifted, hold the toe with the other hand on the inner and outer side and slowly rotate it internally, adding gentle traction outwards as you rotate. Massage any tender spots for around 10 to 20 seconds while holding that rotation and traction. Release it and repeat for maybe 5 times. Then check if your big toe is maybe sitting a bit more straight. It's a small joint with a small movement, but it's the last link in a chain that starts all the way up at the top of your head. That's really the theme of this entire video. Nothing in the body moves in isolation. Each of these patterns comes from the same root problem. Technique demands a shape, and without counter work your body pushes towards the extreme version of it. That's not something a generic stretching routine fixes. You need assessment of your movement system and specific exercises that help you reduce compensations, which is exactly what I show in my free 14-day movement coaching series. Real case studies, real exercises that take only around 15 minutes a day. Link is in description. If you want to actually see how your body is asymmetrical, not just as a dancer, but in general, that's exactly what this next video covers. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.